Well, welcome everybody to our Double D safety meeting. This is another new experience for us, and so we're excited to try it and see how this goes. A couple of things we just wanted to bring up and let you know that thank you for all that you've done this year so far. We've had a good year. We're moving forward. We're progressing, and we see some great things in the future happening for us. We won't take too much of your time, and that way we can say a few things and you can get back to work. Anyways, we'll just kind of move forward and we'll turn some time over to Skylar.
Okay, so we've got about 5 things that we're going to hit here, just so you kind of know what to expect. I'm going to start out with some small, just quick items, and then we'll build up to some bigger safety things that we want to address. I'm going to share my screen really quick for a topic that I've noticed with a couple people. We have some different routes that we take to get back to the yard, and thought it would just be some basic good information to cover what we found is the best for getting to and from the yard. It's also the most convenient, especially in a truck. So I pulled up this route on Google Maps. If you are coming from the north, it is fastest and smoothest to take to go from 215, or if you're on I-15, and then to take I-80 over to Bangor Highway, come down to that stoplight and come through. If you're going all the way down to California and coming across, first off, California is a horrible road, but you got stoplights. And so when we've timed it, coming this freeway is faster. And then we're going to the south, coming to or from the yard. This one's a little less obvious, but it's actually fastest to get on 201 and then take the 3200 West or Gladiola exit. And then you come over to this Ninigrit Road to come to the yard. And same vice versa. If you're turning around Ninigrit to Gladiola to 201 and out. Hopefully that's helpful. I like being as quick as I can when I'm in a truck and saving as much of my drive time as I can. So I've timed it, and these are our quickest and smoothest routes. Wanted to mention that on getting to and from the yard. I'll stop sharing my screen here and hand it back to Brian for the next item.
Thank you. So one of the things that we need to talk about, because it's come up a couple of times, is alcohol in the trucks. It's been asked about, it's come up, we found it, and we really got to get away from it. No alcohol in the truck at all. And it is kind of a safety issue. So if you have it in there, get it out. We will start taking some pretty intense measures on that kind of stuff if we start seeing it and finding it in the trucks at all. So please do not have alcohol in your trucks at any time. Okay, Skylar?
And as I understand it, we're not thinking that people have actually been drinking and driving. It's just when we've talked to the drivers, they were just unaware that it's very illegal to have an alcoholic beverage in your possession in a truck.
Yes, that's correct. It is very illegal. It's even more illegal, if that's such a thing, to even go across state lines. If you transfer over to state lines, I think they start to consider that bootlegging. And so the things will just start piling up there for you and for us.
Sorry, I wasn't laughing about the alcohol thing. Kathy tried to walk into my office and my door was closed, and she just totally ran into my glass door. So, anyways. Okay, great. So next thing, another small thing here, the split sleeper berth rule. Sometimes we use this especially when you have like a breakdown. For example, Keith, I'm gonna call it Keith. He had a breakdown, nothing that was his fault, but he got stuck on the side of the freeway for 2 hours yesterday. And because he went to sleeper berth, he was able to get that time back once he got fixed and got moving, once we got that air leak fixed. But there's an interesting thing about this split sleeper rule. When you use it like that sometimes we miss. When you stop for the night, you can't go off duty. You have to have sleeper berth as your 8 or 10 hour break for the night. Beforehand, when you stop and as you're driving, before you stop for the end of the night, everything will look fine. And then sometimes you go off duty and you wake up in the morning, it says you have a violation. That's because it's split sleeper. So use sleeper berth. If you've ever run into that, that's why. I think there's even been confusion on my part that I've often forgotten used off duty there. So when using the split sleeper berth rule, remember sleeper, sleeper, sleeper. That's the way to make sure that all works good. And then your time will calculate correctly. And even when there's been issues, we just edit the log to be sleep or berth so it can be fixed. But that's a way to be ahead of it so you don't run into that issue. Oh, next is me as well. So I'm going to share my screen again here. I'm going to talk about brakes and hills really quick. We're on item number 4, if you've been counting. So you should see my screen now. I'm going to pull up this footage here. Maybe you saw this. Can you see the whole video now, Brian? Is that working?
Yes, it just went to the big picture.
So maybe you saw this and I just messed it up. Here we go. Maybe you saw this video of this truck that crashed in Tooele. And you've probably seen a little bit of the details, but they compiled this footage from businesses and other dash cams. This vehicle lost his brakes coming down this gradual hill in Tooele. So why exactly that happened, who knows? But horrible crash. 33 vehicles were damaged, buildings damaged, big fire. This is the worst spot right here. It comes just plowing through a whole bunch of cars. Actually, I should say turned out to be a 6-year-old woman who was driving. I bring up this video just because it's kind of interesting to watch, but also because it's local. I'm going to stop it here. But I want to talk a little bit about brakes and coming down hills. Another video that I find kind of fun is this one on YouTube. You may have seen this before. Wherever this place is, oh, that didn't work right, did it? Is it full screen for you?
No.
It's not full screen for me either. Sorry, everyone. I have no idea why it's doing that. All right, well, we might have to skip that. But there's this place, I think it's in Europe, where they have this runaway truck ramp, and it's very famous for vehicles using the ramp and having to get pulled out of there. So much so that they've had multiple vehicles use that runaway truck ramp in a row when one's already in there. So there's been some conversations that I've had with some of our drivers when it comes to going down hills and using your brakes versus using your engine brakes. So the question I want you to ask yourself right now is, how much should you use your foot brake when you're going down a hill? And I hope that your answer was never. You should never need to use your foot brake when going down a hill. I understand that sometimes, I've gone over a hill and realized I'm going a little too fast and the engine brake isn't able to hold me back, and I need to push on my brake a little bit to slow me down so the engine brake can hold me back. Some of our drivers are hauling heavy loads and going down big hills, such as Parleys with 2 trailers. And some of our trucks, for those guys who are driving the older trucks with the Cat engines, the engine brake's not very strong. It's correct that you need to go down at a speed that your engine brake will hold you back completely. So whatever hill you're going down, wherever you are, no matter what load you're carrying, the expectation is here that you will use your engine brake to provide all of that braking power. We're coming into wintertime. That changes a little bit, which means you're going to go down that hill a whole lot slower so that you can maybe use a combination of maybe engine brake if you need it, but maybe foot pedal. We'll probably talk about some of the winter driving stuff. It's a little different. I'm talking about good conditions coming down a hill. Most of the conditions that we're driving in, rely on your engine brakes. Make sure you're using your engine brakes when coming down a hill at all times. Okay, back to Brian.
Is there a way to know what gear to be in before you come up to descend down that hill? Is like looking at the grades, because usually there'll be signs at the top of the hill that talk about the grade. Is that some way to be able to be effective on knowing what gear to be in?
Knowing your truck seems to help. For example, I knew when I was driving truck 53, if I came up to a hill and it says it was a 6% grade, I knew I probably needed to be in 5th gear of my truck. Of course, there's that old truck driver adage that the same gear you climbed it in is the same gear you go down it in. I personally have a really hard time with that rule because the hill's not always the same slope on the other side. There's the sisters in Wyoming as you're coming this way. The first sister, it's really gradual and then it drops off much steeper. So I don't think that's necessarily a hard set rule, but personally, my rule of thumb has been anytime I go to a new area is I just approach it slower than I think I might need to. And certainly watching out for those signs. I think, like you mentioned, the signs, that's got to be your best key indicator is, does it say there's a hill coming? And then what preparations are you making to make sure you're not going to be going too fast? Certainly using a runaway truck ramp is, you've really done it wrong. But if you feel like you're having to use your brakes quite a bit going down that hill, you need to adjust your approach when coming to a hill.
And that's a great point. And I think, yeah, as you come to these hills that you haven't been before, maybe you take it a little slower in good, normal, regular conditions. But yeah, no, that's great. Great. Thank you for sharing all of that. One of the last things we want to go over and talk about is just kind of some winter driving tips, especially as we get closer to the extreme winter driving weather that is coming. Just wanted to go over about 12 different tips, just kind of talk about them a little bit and share these things. And if you have tips, Skylar, you'd like to share, please come in and share those with us as we go through all of this stuff. But kind of one of the big things, one of the first things we want to talk about is just monitoring the weather. You know, always check before you leave here, especially if we're going into any other state where they do, well, any state. Check to see what the weather is going to be like so that you can be prepared and plan and be ready for that. However you do that, whether it's through apps or whether it's through Google or whatever it may be, always check that stuff before you head out. Kind of the next thing is just make sure you're doing your pre-trip inspections. Know what your vehicle, the condition of your vehicle is, and pay attention to a lot of the major things that we always talk about, like tires and brakes and lights and those type of components to make sure they're ready to go before you start heading out on the road. Another one is your antifreeze. Make sure your antifreeze is at the right levels to prevent any type of a freeze within those cold conditions that you're in. It just helps with everything running a little smoother and a little better. Snow chains are a big thing, right? Always make sure your snow chains, that you have enough, that you have the right size for your tires, and that they're not broke, the links are okay, and that you have the right tools to be able to tighten them up, and with bungee cords. So make sure you have all of that and that you're ready to go. And be aware of the states you go into, that you have the right amount, because some states require more than others.
Quick comment on that.
Yes.
7 chains. You have to have 7 chains on your truck. Washington, I believe, is the most strict with it. Even in dry weather this time of year, they will ask you, we have had this happen, 40 degrees, sunny. They made a driver pull all his chains off, counted them, make sure they weren't broken. And they will write you a ticket if you don't have at least 7 chains. We have enough chains here. Get at least 7 chains on your truck.
Great. Thank you. So as we were talking about going downhill and using our brakes properly, or not using our brakes and using our engine brakes, you know, during these weather conditions, speed is a big factor in being safe, and making sure we are going slow and steady on any time and anywhere as we're on those roads. We need to be careful of sudden movements as we're out there on the road, and what those possibilities that can happen if we have to make those quick decisions and quick movements. And so with that, we would increase our following distance. So pay attention to always focus of the things that are going on in front of you and in front of the truck. Be aware that, or be ready for those times when you have to make quick decisions. Be aware of the distractions around you that can affect that following distance. If you do have to get on your brakes, be cautious about it. Be gentle on those brakes to stop from skidding, and use that engine brake as much as possible to help slow down. During the winter time, make sure you have enough supplies with you in the truck as you're out. Some kind of either emergency kit, or just have some good essential things with you. Make sure you have the right clothing, the right, blankets with you, or extra blankets. Make sure you've got some extra food and water and some basic tools with you as you're out there. Be prepared. Another thing too is communicate with us. communicate with your dispatch, communicate with us, communicate with other drivers to let them know, hey, this is what I experienced and it's coming up. Or if you want to call somebody, if you know somebody's in front of you, call them up, ask them, hey, how are the roads? What's the conditions? What's going on? I think that can definitely help us and you if we can just communicate that better. Your rest breaks. Rest breaks are a good tip, I believe, because it can help us avoid being fatigued. I know a lot of times when we're out there driving in these type of conditions, it can cause a mental and physical stress that can lead to these fatigue times. And it's important to realize that so that we can pull over and take those breaks. Another tip is managing our fuel, making sure that we've got enough fuel in our fuel tanks at all times, just in case, especially if you're going into those storms that sometimes we go into. Make sure you've got that enough fuel and you're planning and preparing for that. Make sure you've got some fuel additives with you too, just in case. I think do we have some of that stuff here, Skylar?
Yeah, we've got a tote inside the shop. So you need to come inside the shop. A very, very highly concentrated version of it. So you only need a little bit so it can last for a really long time. Our fuel here is treated. Anywhere you get fuel that's a cold place, such as Montana, anywhere along I-80, their fuel's already partially treated. But if you get fuel in Las Vegas and then drive up to Montana, you got untreated fuel in Las Vegas. So you need to be aware of that too. But yes, we have fuel treatment here.
Great, thank you. And then one of the last tips is just being able to see, right? Be able to see out of the truck. Make sure that your windows and your mirrors are clean. Make sure you have enough window washer fluid, extra of that, because you tend to go through more in the winter time. And that way we can make sure we can see what's going on and what's outside the truck. That's kind of it for the tips. Just let's be prepared. Let's be ready as we go out there and hit these colder weather situations and storms and all that kind of stuff. Let's make sure we communicate with each other on this too as we go about. Skylar, did you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
I want to comment on two of the things that you mentioned, because there are two things that I would have thought, I don't know if they're that important, but because I have personal experience with back in 2014, hauling out of Cheyenne back to here, I lost a coolant hose just outside of Wamsutter in the middle of the night around 2 a.m. So coolant level, it was my hose that blew, but I was also in a different truck. My truck was broke down. So I took a different truck. I didn't grab all my stuff, the usual thing. And I didn't have everything to be warm. And it took 6 hours before I got fixed. And that was a frigid 6 hours. Couldn't run the truck, had no heat, waiting for this guy to bring me the right hose. Of course, I didn't have any tools. I didn't have the hose to fix it anyways, if I had my tools. But the biggest thing I thought was, I don't even have a decent coat to deal with this for this long. And so having those supplies and thinking about the fact that regardless of all the preparations we can make, you still could find yourself in a situation where you need to have some kind of emergency supplies such as that and be able to stay warm in a rare situation. It definitely left an impression on me. I now have a winter bag that travels with me anytime I jump in a truck for that very reason.
Yeah, great. One last thing I'd like to bring up is some of you may have this with you, some of you may not have one of these, but we want to make sure everybody's got one of these. But we do these safety coins. If you do not have one of these, you need to come see me so I can get you one of these. It's just something fun that we kind of do, and it's something kind of critical too, because on this coin it talks about a few things that we like to just kind of pride ourselves on, that we try to always accomplish and do. And we're always trying to be reliable, safe, show good service, great service, and provide good quality. And it's an experience that we feel like we do well at, and we want everybody to just have this with them. And with that, we do a little game with it as far as just doing coin checks with everybody. And so we want you to kind of carry it with you, whether it's in your wallet, in your pocket, whatever it may be. I know all of us here in the office always have ours. Skylar, will you get yours out so you can show everybody too that you've got yours in your pocket?
I seem to have misplaced my coin.
Oh no. So what does that mean? That means if if I coin check you or you coin check me, we kind of owe each other something here. So if you don't have your coin and I coin check you, you have to do something for me. But if you coin check me or Skylar or Mark or Tyler or Travis, and they don't have their coin, that means we get to do something for you, whatever it may be. So anyways, just come and see me if you don't have a coin, and we can talk more about it, kind of the whole reason and purpose behind it all. But again, thank you guys for all that you do for Double D. We appreciate you. We are constantly thinking of you, trying to help and do whatever we can. So please, if you have any questions or comments, please let us know. Keep us involved. We want to be involved with you, and we want you to be involved with us so that we know how to progress, be better, and make this a great working environment and a great working culture of safety and influence, and so that we can all return home to our families. Again, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you all. We love all you guys who work here. We think about you all the time. Let us know what you think of this style of meeting. You know, going to the Zoom thing a few months ago was new for us in general, and now we're going to a recorded one. We still would like to do the live one. It's just, it can be hard with the season still going. So we want to try and make these as convenient as they can be for you while also being useful for you. So give us feedback on what you think about this, and we'll do whatever feedback you give us, or we'll try and make things better. So thanks.
Thanks.